Thank you for staying with us. I think it's already 5 minutes past the time. Once again, I want to welcome everyone to today's Let's Mediate session. This is an online free session where mediators meet and share ideas together. And I'm so excited to be here because this will be our first Let's Mediate edition for the year. So my name is Joshua Adekwetu, and I'm the communication officer for the Institute. So quickly, I would like to inform us that we're live on YouTube. And if there's anyone who is having difficulty to join us on Zoom, they can easily use the YouTube to follow us on this webinar. I've dropped the link for the YouTube, that is to follow us on YouTube on our chat box. So we can easily copy that from our chat box in order for others to follow us. Thank you. And we can also watch later on our YouTube page, which is ICMC Nigeria. So quickly, I would like to inform us one or two ground rules so that we can all have a smooth session for this webinar. Firstly, all participants are encouraged to have their mics, that is their microphone, muted, so that to avoid any form of interference or disturbance. So without taking much of our time, we are still expecting more of our members. As I told us earlier, we're live on Zoom and we're also live on YouTube. So I'll quickly run through the profile of our facilitator for today so that we can get to know more about him. So profile of Mr. Babatunde Abiodun Oyefesho. Mr. Babatunde Abiodun Oyefesho is a lawyer called to the Nigerian bar in 2002. He is an alumnus of the prestigious St. Gregory's College, Obalende, Lagos, and Ogun State University, now Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agoiwe. He was a former Abuja branch secretary of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, ICMC. He is on the panel of neutrals of the Federal High Court ADR Center and proprietor of Mediation Village. He is a certified trainer of the Institute and a lover of peace. He is an ADR registrar / secretary, as well as fellow of the Institute Management Consultant. He is a fellow, as well as the present deputy registrar of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, ICMC. He is the lead partner for ILS Attorneys, Abuja, and has successfully converted all the partners of the firm to be members of ICMC. He was the former vice chair of NBA Abuja branch. Mr. Oyefesho is a solicitor with special interest in company and commercial law, real estate, contracts, and government regulation compliance. Mr. Oyefesho also litigates before the Federal Court in Nigeria concerning municipal laws of the Federal Capital Territory, covering the practice ADR of administrative and constitutional law, electoral law, civil and criminal law, and real estate. Mr. Oyefesho recently obtained a favorable judgment at the Federal High Court concerning the candidature of an opposition party for the right to run as governor of a state in the oil-producing South-South region of Nigeria. He is married to Mawumi, and the marriage is blessed with children. He is an avid reader, enjoys traveling, playing football and cricket. He is popularly known with the acronym BAO and the executive senior pastor, ESP of Praying Partner Ministry. Ladies and gentlemen, member of the Institute, please join me as we welcome our guest speaker for today, Mr. Babatunde Oyefesho. Your Excellency, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Can you hear me? Am I
Yes, I
audible,
can hear
Joshua?
you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so
We need
much,
to confirm from
Joshua.
others.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir, we can hear you
Please,
loud and clear.
is it clear?
Yes, Your Excellency, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We can proceed, sir.
Good. I don't know because I noticed I have a lot. There are lots of people online, so I want to play safe by saying good day to all, regardless of whatever time zone you are in. But I think it's important I establish protocol. So let me start by um, saying good morning, good day to Mr. President of the Institute in the person of Dr. John Agada Elachi, PhD, members of the executive of the ICMC, from the first, second deputy registrar, and also other vice president. Governing council members are governing council members, bodies of fellows of the institute, distinguished members. I also noticed some other members who I noticed some attendees who are not members. I also welcome you all excellencies to today's Let's Mediate session. One thing the Institute have tried to do is to create awareness of what we are all about. And so it's more of a learning process for all of us. The topic today is mediation in the political space, and it stems from the fact that we are all witnesses to the present times we are in. We also know that there's a new cliche in town, which is let's go to court. Everywhere, everybody tells you let's go to court. And for those amongst us who are lawyers, you will agree with me that the court is already bogged down with too many cases. And as the election seasons are here, I can also tell you that some of the courts may not be able to entertain any new matters or even the old ones for the next 3 to 6 months, because election matters are time bound. So they would want to comply with the constitutional provisions of running them within 180 days. And so it brings us back to what do we do so that we don't have a situation where the system, the third arm of government breaks down. And so we are looking at a new means of evolving mediation within the political space. Now, I'm sure everybody knows what mediation is. Mediation is a structured interactive process where an impartial third party assists parties in reaching a jointly acceptable resolution of conflict. One thing that mediation is good about is that it's voluntary. There's no gun put at the head of anybody. Everybody comes in and there's a willingness to look, let's sit down, let's talk about it, and let's resolve and let's move forward. It's more consensual amongst the parties, and for all mediators here, you agree with me that the success rates are very high. What are the qualities of mediation, vis-a-vis the political space? You will discover that for mediation, it is not judgmental. You don't come to that room with anybody having a conclusion of this is who you are or that is who you are not. It's not judgmental. Everybody comes to the party because it stems basically from that fact that there's a miscommunication amongst parties. So it's not judgmental. It's empathic. We move from being sympathetic to being empathetic so that you know how that person feels, and you try to make each party to draw a conclusion and help one another. It's also for someone who must be an effective listener. You must be able to listen attentively, and try to get both the spoken and unspoken word in the midst of the discussion. Fourthly, it is a process where everybody there must be patient. You are patient about it, and you try to run through the process. Nobody's antagonizing anything. Thank God for Joshua as he started today by setting out the ground rules. Usually in mediation, we set out ground rules, and not everybody is talking at the same time. You talk one after the other. Everybody has a space so that we can all hear one another instead of having a situation where it's like a rowdy market. Everybody's trying to make himself heard at the same time. The mediator who organizes this must be intelligent. He must be able to understand what the issues are and be able to assist the parties in resolving that conflict or that disagreement as the case may be. Another thing is that the mediator must be persuasive. He must be able to make them understand, make them sit down. Like we say, where the room gets a bit hot, he must be able to break them up into caucuses wherein he moves out one party to the other, try to resolve and bring them that. He must also be imaginative of the entire thing. He must be imaginative of their disagreements and how to help them resolve. Another criteria is that we mediators at times, I'm sorry I may have to use this word, we are like the scapegoats that we bear the brunt of those disagreements. They feel, oh, you are the middleman, you are the cause and all that, and you suck up all the pressures they are having amongst themselves, but ensure that in sucking up that pressure, you allow them engage in a peaceful and cordial discussions among themselves. The mediator too, in that process, must be a reality tester. You must be able to look at the issues at its stems. This is important because we are looking at mediation in the political space. Your background knowledge of the situation at hand would make you look at it with a glass of reality from the fulcrum of reality and be able to tell them that, look, what we are proposing has the possibility of flying through or not. And lastly, such a mediator would be what we call a sponge. He absorbs all the brunt and all that. Now, politics, as we know, are activities associated with power or governance, as the case may be. It includes at times the debates between political parties and all that amongst themselves. And you will discover that amongst them, they also have disputes. There is the desire for who wins. And one thing about politics is that, unlike mediation, politics looks for a winner. We call it a no-zero sum. There must be a winner, there must be a loser. In mediation, everybody is a winner. Mediation tries to strike a balance amongst all parties to ensure that everybody in the process is a winner. It's a win-win process, Now, what are advantages of mediation in a political space? Number one, mediation allows for self-determination. Self-determination in the sense that it is the two parties who will sit down and agree amongst themselves. The mediator would help them highlight what the issues are, and they will be able to look at it and agree amongst themselves, this is what we'll do. And then let's not forget that even in politics, what people are busy looking for is self-determination. The ability to determine what their rights, privileges are within a particular sphere of governance. They are looking for self-determination. So you discover that mediation also works in tandem. One other thing mediation allows for is confidentiality. Outside those who are gathered there, there's no third party that would hear about that issue. But even within the political space, the issue of confidentiality would come up. And as we go on in the paper, I would talk more about confidentiality as it affects the political space, because it is no longer about the two parties. Yes, there are two arrowheads, but those who bear the brunt of all whatever agreement is reached are the populace itself, the electorate, as we call them. Well, another advantage of mediation is that the skills each mediator has, skill from training, from all the courses we've gone through, may assist in helping such mediators to assist the disputing parties to resolve the revolving issues. One important thing about mediation is that mediation ensures that there is an open channel. Usually, you will discover that in disputes, people have driven themselves to a point to which nobody is hearing the other. They don't want to hear what he's saying, and you're already having a situation where it's as if the good morning from the other party is offensive. the mediator will come in and try to, in his level of neutrality, make sure that everybody can understand one another. Now, it's important to know that as we look at mediation in the political space, yes, we'll draw examples from some other countries, but our major focus is on our country, Nigeria. It's going to be our case studies, and we'll be, pick points and, illustrate issues from there. Now, in politics and in dispute, there are two types. You have party disputes, and then post-election dispute. For party disputes, at times it stems from leadership issues. We have dispute amongst ourselves. Who should be the leadership of this party, area council chair for this party, and some other things. And most of the time, one other thing I know is that for every political party that has been registered and who has accreditation with INEC, they have their own laws, they have their own constitution. And so at times you discover that some of the times, some of them rush into the courts to try and resolve, especially maybe after changes of guard within their political structure. Presently, I'm sure for all of us who are following the trends in our country, you will discover that all of a sudden the PDP has suspended the chairman who superintended over them into the 2023 elections, and that's another dispute waiting to happen. And so I want to encourage all mediators who are available to this, let's buckle up, because there are disputes for us to help them resolve, so that they don't go rushing to court to try and solve it. Now, apart from intra-party dispute, there are also post-election disputes. Now, it's important for me to put down a note of warning that mediation does not declare somebody a winner. Mediation is not such that, like I started by saying, the cliche now is go to court, and every political party has rushed to court. In the presidential election, they've already filed their petition at the presidential tribunal. For the gubernatorial parties are already filing theirs. For the National Assembly elections, they're also filing, as well as for the state assemblies and some other off-cycle election. In fact, as it stands, for the off-cycle elections, I think on Friday, the Court of Appeal overturned the election from Osun State, and I can bet you will still go to the Supreme Court. Now, for post-election dispute, mediation, and I want to make this clear, mediation does not come to declare or raise a party's hand as the winner or another one as the loser. What mediation tries to do is to evolve a situation where all parties, electorates, as it may concern, agree amongst themselves. Let's not forget that politicians would always start by telling us that, oh, my people have called me to serve. And so what mediation strives to do is that, look, if your people have called you to serve, you need to also understand among yourself that in serving them, you don't drive yourself to the point to which you now are locked down in battles among themselves. There are mass destructions here and there. Already at the last election in Lagos and some other states, Kano, thereabout, they were, prior to the gubernatorial election, there were threats of violence, and there were reports here and there. Well, I know that the law enforcement are dealing with that presently. For those who have been arrested, they will be made to face the wrath of the law. But the truth is, with mediation, we look for a win-win situation amongst all parties. Now, in post-elections cases, there are about 5 items they always look for. And that is one, either way, the loser will be looking for the tribunal to order a new election. At times, the person, the petitioner, as we call them at the election tribunal, is looking for a position to disqualify another candidate. Oh, that candidate did not meet up. Oh, it was changed before the election. It doesn't have basic qualifications to abide for that position and all that. Another thing is they will also be looking at a situation where, that tribunal declares them as a winner of the process and nullifies certain votes for overvoting, beavers not working. So many things, intricacies here and there comes up, but that is not what we are concerned. And then at times we've also had, in recent times, we had a situation where, for instance, like in Kogi State, where somebody died before the runoff. And so they want a situation where the the process will declare them as a winner. Now, one great advantage for mediation is that mediation helps to resolve complex issues. There's no how complex the issues are, mediation will help you to resolve it. And that is why you discover that in Nigeria now, mediation has evolved into a situation where, coupled with what ICMC is doing with the online dispute resolution platform, it has evolved into a simpler means to which from anywhere you are in, you always apply and your issues are settled once the panel of neutrals look at your matters and, they'll help you. And then it's important for me to say that mediation now has a court-assisted side to it. So once the parties come to an agreement on their dispute, the institute or multi-door courthouse, as the case may be, that is involved in the process, would help you get the force of law against it. Now, elections are at the core of democratic processes. But, one thing about election is that they are competitive in nature. It's a competition. They want to declare, who is a winner. And one thing is that mediation allows for parties to engage in negotiation. It opens up and it makes party B to sit down, party A to sit down and all that. And in fact, if you take note, you will discover that, I think starting from, is it 2015 election, the General Abdul Salam team are trying to evolve a situation where there is a peace accord being signed preparatory to such an election. And this is to ensure that we don't run ourselves to having, the Rwandan experience, the Kenyan experience, the Zimbabwe experience, where post-election violences were so much that lives and properties were lost. Some of those countries are still trying to recover from 10 years, 15 years post-election disputes that are still there. Now, the truth is, this mediation in electoral process has come to stay. If you look at jurisdictions like in the US, it's already incorporated into their processes there. They have a situation where anybody who feels that, look, there's a candidate who has not measured up within the laws, there's what you call the Alternative Dispute Resolution Office, which is in the Federal Election Commission. I was shocked when I found out that that commission had been established since 1975. No wonder a lot of other countries look up to the US, because it seems as if, for them to have established mediation within their system since 1975, it tells you that their democracies have gone through a lot of testing here and there, and presently are still going through it. Because at the verge of President Trump's election, we saw what we've never seen, which was violence, and the government is still trying to balance up and resolve that, as it stands. There's the Kenyan experience in 2017 between the Kibaki and Odinga dispute, where the former UN Secretary General and the person of His Excellency Kofi Annan had to come in. For those of us who are avid readers, you will see that in his book, A Life in War and Peace, he devoted a chapter into that story of how he had to come in and stem the tide between the dispute, because post-election had already created problems, lives were being lost, there were massive demonstrations here and there, and he was able to get the people to come in to sit down. And you discover that some of this power play were things that Henry Kissinger in the US had to do, in what we call shuttle diplomacy, move from one region to the other. We see that also. We see former President Obasanjo doing the same in the Horn of Africa, Somalia. We've seen some experiences in Guinea. We've seen Sierra Leone here and there. Likewise in Zimbabwe, we have the Mugabe experience in 2008 and 2009, where former President Thabo Mbeki had to intervene, act as the mediator, to make sure that the country became stable. And then we need not to forget that it was, these disputes amongst people, and which stems at times from tribal influences that led to the Rwandan Holocaust. And the country is still trying to grapple with the effect of that Holocaust. For those who have visited the museum there, a lot of people had come back telling themselves that as much as possible, they should ensure that such don't happen in their country. And presently, with the post-election issues in Nigeria, I think last week, Thursday, we had women demonstrate in Nasarawa State. We had certain people also doing demonstration in different states about the results here and there. This morning, as I was preparing to come, live, I saw on one blog that certain people in support of the president-elect are going to do a bit of demonstration at the Peace Fountain in Unity Fountain in Abuja. And, it tells you that it is important that all of us need to, especially for those of us who are mediators, we need to come in and ensure that peace reigns, because where there is no peace in a country, I'm sorry, there can't be any progress. An example is Ukraine. If you look at the massive destruction, I've had to follow the massive destructions going on in Ukraine and discover that a country that was peaceful, a country that was, in the agri business of supplying wheat, was reckoned as #1, is now a shadow of itself. Now have a situation, I had to look at the records and I discovered that as at February 24, 2022, Russia amassed over 190,000 soldiers at on the borders of Ukraine. So many lives have been lost, on both sides. So many people have been displaced. Europe itself, as we speak, knows, other countries in Europe know how many people they've had to accommodate within their own borders. Landowners, landlords, city holders, and so many people have now become refugees all of a sudden, just because there is a dispute in the political space that is not being settled. I pray that the United Nations will rise up to it, even though I know that certain meetings have been held in Turkey to try and resolve the Ukraine-Russia war. But I pray that the United Nations would rise up, and try and resolve this. Likewise, you will discover that even within Africa, there's what we call the panel of the wise. The panel of the wise, transmitted in 1991, where it used to be a council of elders. They were made up of statesmen who would go to every troubled region trying to mediate and bring peace. We need to understand that in mediating, what they try to do is to ensure that between warring parties, they are able to get to a compromise and, drive themselves to a point to sit down and come to terms with the reality on ground and, give out to issues here and there and allow peace to reign. Now, what are the advantages of mediations in the political space? One very important thing is that the mediator and the entire process allows for direct negotiation. Each party is being called. You have to bring them to the table, make them sit down. For those who read the book by Excellency Kofi Annan, you see how he had to, bring pressure on the Kenyan experience and to call in the superpowers, Colin Rice of the US and some other influential personalities within governance in the world to put a bit of pressure and threat of sanction on certain people and make them come to terms and to abide by the terms of the peace. Now, one of the things is that you help parties to understand and frame their disputes. The mediator helps them to understand and frame their dispute. At times, you discover that people are not hearing themselves. So when you ask them what exactly is the bone of contention, you have to be a good listener to discover that what there are so many noise, but what they are contending are narrow issues. So you quickly help them that, look, this is the issue at the forefront, and you strive to help them get to it and sit down and look for a way out. Now, mediation acts as an agent of reality. It looks at the issues. What are the issues? This morning I was looking at, I think, BBC, and I saw a story where They said in Afghanistan, with the Taliban regime, the education system, the schools are resuming, and the girl child are not happy because part of that regime's policy is that girls don't go to school. BBC was showing certain females who were crying because they couldn't go to school. And you discover that it would affect the psyche of a nation. So there are different issues, that come up here and there that we need mediation to stem this tide so that we can have a balance up within the system of governance. One other thing mediation does is that there's a less cost you pay to it. For those who are lawyers amongst us, you know that there are years you are in dispute in courts, and after initial trials, you also know that there's the appellate level. I have matters in courts from 2015 that we are starting de novo out of the fact that for one reason or the other, the judge was elevated, some judges passed away, and both sides want to be heard. So you discover that in most jurisdictions, they are having what we call, they have multi-door courts, and they have settlement with certain matters who have stayed so long in court are being pushed there that, look, let the parties sit down and resolve among themselves. But, the one thing is that it comes at a greater cost, a lesser cost, and it allows for greater party participation. By mediation, we are not taking meals from the tables of lawyers. They are also still part of the process. So nobody's taking any meals from anybody. We are just trying to ensure that peace reigns within the society, as the case may be. Now, one other thing mediation does, especially within the political space, is that it prevents further dispute. By the time you are able to come to topic, and this I make bold to say, the court process does not do. The court process only looks at the issues as presented to the court by the parties, no more, no less. In fact, for lawyers, you usually say that the court is not a Father Christmas, won't give you what you have not asked for. But for mediation, it involves a situation where you make sure, because reality is involved. Mediation process is a reality tester. It involves a process where it looks at, okay, what are the issues among the parties? It allows everybody to have it say, everybody vents as the case may be. And then if among the parties, they now evolve an all-encompassing resolution to that dispute. And lastly, one thing mediation does is that it's interest-based consensus building. Every party there have their interest, and the interest is taken care of. And you will see that this is what the AU, African Union, has tried to do with the panel of the wise. They've been able to set that up, wherein the panel of the wise will quickly move in. You have a country having a dispute, they quickly move in with with the panel of the wise, trying to resolve what these processes are and help them get to the solution as the case may be. Now, in the process itself, in mediation, there are two major models. There's the facilitative mediation. There's also the evaluative mediation. For those we call facilitative mediation, they weigh in on the substance of the dispute, facilitate the process in such a way that the parties can reach a consensus among themselves as it meets their interests. While the evaluative weighs on the issues, gives its opinion, oh, okay, this is what the issues are, and then brings in settlement proposals as the case may be. So it depends on you, what method you want to use to help these parties to resolve their issues. And sincerely, those issues are bound. They are bound within our locality. They are bound within, even within associations. For most of us who belong to association, for most of us who belongs to, even on our WhatsApp group amongst our, colleagues, disputes are bound. And you discover that it stems from basic interest. Now, there is a school of thought that says that mediation should not stand alone in settling political disputes. Well, by and large, yes, because mediation forms part of the ADR spectrum. But the truth is, mediation, as it stands, is interest, it's consensus building among parties. It's not like arbitration where it's so party or, as the case may be, some parties steal and you present your issues before them, and whatever they say becomes binding on parties. But with mediation, you are able to ensure that the parties sit among themselves, look at the issues as it is, and come to a conclusion. For now, you discover we need to be able to, make sure that it becomes a process. I remember that in 2006, when Professor Ataru Jega was the chairman of INEC, INEC did set up an alternative dispute resolution center. They tried to ensure that disputes among political parties were resolved. I know that the Institute contributed in no small measure to that. I believe that was during the tenure of High Chief Obegolu as president of the Institute. They tried to ensure that we do that. And then I also recall that one of our past presidents, in person of Chartered Mediator Chief Paddy Njoku, did resolve a political dispute, I think in the Southeast. I can't remember which state then, but he was able to bring, I can't remember whether it had to do with a border-related dispute between two towns or villages. But I also know on record that he was able to resolve it. By and large, we need to understand that conflicts are very destructive. We can only say when they start, we don't know how many will be consumed by it. They come in different parts, they come in different dimensions, but the truth is the aftermath of conflicts are such that they leave us gap. Conflicts are like fire you set into a dry bush. You can only know that you started from one point. The direction the wind will carry it to, you don't know. And you will discover that even within our country now, before the last... Joshua, can you please help me mute? Okay. Before the last election, we had what we call, it was as if we are going back to 1966. We're having tribal sentiment. Oh, it's an Igbo, it's a Yoruba, it's from the north and all that. But in trying to resolve, who wins what or who gets what in whatever political space, you discover that you have a situation where certain people are still grappling with just in the last 1 month, they are still grappling with the destructions. I read in the papers, I think last week, 2 brothers who passed on just because of electoral violence. And so those things are real. They are still there. And so our nation needs healing. And as our nation needs healing, we, the mediators and all lovers of peace, need to come in and start, evolving means, participatory means, to ensure that these disputes are solved, whichever dimension they are really solved. I thank the president of the Institute in the person of Dr. Agada Elachi, and even past President Louis Ogwefun for the volunteer mediation scheme, which is being run across some branches of the ICMC, trying to help people to resolve their disputes. I hope they would extend this to the political setup. I hope other branches will key into that process, try to help people resolve their issues at no cost, so that we can all grow together. I also want to, I want to encourage Mr. President and other stakeholders within ICMC and other mediatory institutions to reach out to the government, the presidency, National Assembly, governors, local State House of Assembly, and other stakeholders. Our country needs healing, and I think mediation would be an appropriate tool that we can use to help, stem the type of violence. When it comes, we'll all be consumed. This one that we can all sit in our different homes, sit in our offices, we can drive, we can go back and forth. When there are violence, especially within the political space, we all become losers, of such things. It's my prayer that we'll not drive ourselves to that point, and that we would be able to use the political system to evolve a situation where peace can reign, in the system amongst us in our country, Nigeria. Thank you so much. I don't know if there are questions. I'm willing to take questions as it affects mediation within our political space in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Joshua.
Thank you very much, sir. that was great. There is so much that has been captured in this 30 to 45 minutes of your presentation, sir. So quickly, we would like to take questions. If you have addition or something you would like to add on this webinar, as we all know, mediation is very important. It's very important, most especially in the political space, as Mr. Oyefesho said earlier. If there is problem in the politics, in fact, both siblings are at war with themselves. We've had a lot of friendship and relationship that has got broken, all because of Peter Obi, Tinubu, Atiku, supporters and all. So please, if you have a question, you can please use the reaction feature, or you type your question in the chat box. Did we get that? I just need to confirm if we are still together. You can use the reaction or the raise hand feature in the button below, or you just unmute your mic and ask your question, or give us your input or your suggestion on how mediation can also bring more peace into our society.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, we'll reconvene after.
Joshua, I think there's a question on the chat box by Mr. Well, I want to believe is a Mr. One Silvanus Ade. His question is, can the outcome of a political mediation be taken to court to form part of the proceedings? Well, the truth is, within the country, like I said in my presentation, in a country like the US, in Cambodia, and some other jurisdictions outside Nigeria, they've also they've already instituted within their system mediation within the electoral circle. So whatever settlement comes from it is taken as law itself. In Nigeria, because we already have mediation, we have court-assisted mediatory institution. And so what happens is that once you have such disputes being resolved, one could always refer them to to such institution who already have a standing judge who would who would sign off on such a settlement as it comes. I see some other, a lot of questions are coming in. There's a question. Okay. There's a question by what are the signs of the red flag for a professional mediator at a point where you feel this is a tough matter? Or do mediator believe no conflict is unresolvable? No, sir. For we mediators, we don't believe that conflicts are unresolvable. Every conflict starts from a dispute. And most people drive themselves to a point of no return to which they can't understand or comprehend what each party is expressing. Now, one of the red flags for a mediator is where we move, because every mediator we are expected to wear the garment of neutrality. In my study, I discovered while I was looking at the 2022 electoral law, I also found out that, for the INEC and all other persons involved in the electoral process, there is a neutrality level you are expected to maintain. In fact, to most, for those of us who are politically inclined, you discover that no card-carrying member of a political party is appointed into INEC. Likewise, in mediation itself, part of the code of conduct of a mediator is that when, in the mediatory process, when you have a bias, you would duly inform the parties or step aside so that whatever resolution you help the parties come to is not tainted. So each mediator comes to that table on the platform of neutrality. You are not in support of Mr. A, you are not in support of Mr. B. But one thing you are in support is that let them sit down and agree, on a consensual basis among themselves and resolve their issue. Another question says, can cases on election matter be referred to for mediation? Yes, it can. But the issue is, as I've said in my presentation, is that one thing mediation does not allow is mediation is not after declaring a particular person a winner or another person a loser. What mediation does is to ensure that all parties are winners. And we should not forget that everybody who comes for, who goes to vie for a political appointment, as the case may be, would always, if you meet with them, they will always tell you, my people said. And so in a situation where they tell you my people said, it's important for them to also allow their people to enjoy peace. So yes, mediation can be, but it's also now, it's now left for the parties to come to terms among themselves. Now, I may sound a note of warning as a lawyer with my little years of experience in election petition matters. There are times you will discover, and I say this, and I also want my colleagues who are involved in election petitions they would also confirm. There are times when you get cases as a petitioner before an election tribunal. If you truly ask the party briefing you, they are briefing you just out of the platform that those who are following them don't view them as having chickened out of a fight. They would have looked at the issues, they would have done, and that is why part of what mediation does is to do an evaluation for you. When you go and you do an independent evaluation, looks at the issue as it is and let you know, look, this is possible, this is not possible. So at times, certain people deliberately just follow the electoral process just for it to, they tell you, for the people to know that, yes, I'm serious with my aspiration to lead you, is not that I want to chicken out. And if you look at it, in the last, not the penultimate election, especially in Lagos State, I remember that the contestant for the PDP against His Excellency Governor Sanwo-Olu from the PDP, I can't remember what his name is, refused to go to the election petition, saying that there was no need, let bygones be bygones. And some other members of his political party started labeling him as a traitor, that he actually got the party's candidature. He wanted to play out his strategy for the winning party. So you have such allegations coming back and forth. You can't really rule that out. But then one thing that is important is that we need to also understand that whoever comes to power would not be ruling that political party, but ruling a country or a state, as the case may be. which depend on which side of the divide they are in. So it's not after the election process. It's not, oh, I'm governor for party A, I'm governor for party B. Once the results have been declared, return certificates of return have been given, you would be governor to all. And so we need to understand that immediately results come in, the healing process needs to come in, whatever grievances needs to be resolved quickly so that we can all move together. Another question says, what's the role of legal education with regard to mediation, conciliation, and arbitration in Nigerian politics and general litigation at both university and law school level? I'm able to say that in law school, one of the gains of the Institute of Chartered Mediators is that the Institute has started a catch them young process. We have a situation where before law students, have their call to bar, the training for mediation is, as members of the Institute are put toward them at a subsidized cost. Some of them subscribe for it, some of them from there move to the associate level and eventually become members and fellows. I also know that, with the way courts are now, the ADR spectrum has expanded. You now have a lot of people, going into it, and this has increased in the last 5-6 years. You now have more people, you now have what's within ADR spectrum, mediation and arbitration. You now have people, they are now doing. You have specialists in construction, commercial mediation, and some other, species of our day-to-day lives. You now have experts coming up in it. Even within the institute, I know of like a fellow, Mr. Ifeanyi, who specializes in construction. And we also have, even the president of the institute, Dr. Lachi, Chief Obegolu, Ambassador Jai, some of them are, they are experts in commercial arbitration. And then the institute is also affiliated to the, I think this Institute of Peace and Something Studies, I can't remember the full acronym. They also, try to ensure that, and the study, or the education of mediation course across. The institute is also affiliated to the Institute of Policy, I think Security Studies in University of Ibadan. I can't remember, with Dr. Albert Oduwole, a prominent member, I think is the head of that that department in UI, and is a well-respected fellow of the institute. So it cuts across, and the study of mediation, conciliation, arbitration has gained high level. Coupled then with the fact that there is even a new law, arbitration and mediation, the 2022 has come in, and everybody has started looking at it to ensure that the ADR spectrum is more, is more rich than what it should be. Well, there's another question: how can a political case be referred to mediation when the accusations of criminal act? Well, the truth is a crime is a crime, and we need to also understand that a crime is against a state. There are also attempts, as in some other jurisdictions, to have criminal mediation. Let's not forget that there's what we call restorative justice. When a crime is committed, you need to evaluate it. Oh, okay, how does it affect the society? How does it affect you? Is there a loss? And if there's loss, there's need to have restorative justice. In fact, that's what AJA, 2015 AJA has tried to make sure that we have what we call restorative justice. Now, in a particular matter, matters may have they may have different outputs. They may be that for mediation, and they may be that for crime. A crime is a crime, and the state is involved in that. But then we also need to understand that we are now having a situation where we are having plea bargaining, we are having court imposed suspended sentences. We are having a situation where maybe depending on what the offenses are, because of the way our prisons are crowded, you now have a situation where somebody would be asked to simply just sweep the streets, present himself that will be of good behavior and all. So it's not here, it's not there. But one good thing about mediation is that, like I said, mediation is a reality testing situation. You know, it looks at the situation as it is and tries to frame a balanced approach to ensure that there is a win-win situation. Mr. Eremosele also went for that to say, will it fall under civil or civil jurisprudence or criminal jurisprudence? Well, as you know, you have a situation that will have a civil aspect and has a criminal aspect. So we can't straight bucket, we can't straight jacket. It depends. And mediation is not such that we start drawing up an hypothetical situation. It looks at each case as they may be on the basis of what they are. So I can't bring an issue from A and say, look, this is how B should be. And that is why in part of the mediation training, you are trained to be versatile, you are trained to, you are trained to be all encompassing, so that on case-by-case basis, you look at the issues and assist the parties in a persuasive means to resolve themselves. Felicia Umo says, when the mediator evaluates a dispute and advises parties on the strength of it, does that breach the requirement that a mediator shouldn't come with a preconceived position as to the merit, strength, or otherwise of the dispute? Like I said, there are two modes. There's the facilitative mediation, there's the evaluative mediation. It depends on your own strength. We have our own individual strengths, and those strengths also are dependent on the issue we intend to resolve. There's no hypothetical case, so I can't say this is how you go about it, but the bottom line is that there is a dispute among parties and they want to resolve it. You would encourage and persuade them to draw up amongst themselves a compromise to which they are all happy with. It's a win-win situation. So I can't say whether it will be evaluative, I can't say whether it will be facilitative, but then we should not forget that usually, in any mediatory session, we have what we call our opening statement, where you tell them who you are, and you also ask them to be sure that it's not as if they feel, they have a perceived notion that you are too close to the other person or you are too far away from this other person, so that you'll be able to help them. So whether it would, whether you could come to the table with your own perceived notion, and then let's not forget that you are not the one in the dispute, it's the parties. So allow the parties to have their say, allow the parties to draw to their conclusion. But as a reality tester, as a mediator, you need to allow such parties to come to resolve their issues. There is a question, which degree certificate qualifies someone to be an expert in mediation issues? Well, the good thing about ICMC is that once you are a graduate, the institute is open. In our midst, we have those who are engineers. One of our very good trainers in the person of Ambassador Shegun Ogunyawo is an engineer, and he has become, and he has done his CEDA accreditation and is very good. In fact, I know that there are lots of us who have been trained by Mr. Shegun Ogunyawo, who is not a lawyer, but in training for mediation, he is one of the very best. And I learned under him and Dr. Agada Elachi, as well as Chief Emeka Obegulu. They are very good, and as well as Ambassador Ojaide. So it's not that you must be a lawyer, but the basic qualification is that you must be lettered. You must be a graduate. You must be able to understand what is being taught. The institute has a 3-level stages. You come in as an associate. You graduate for membership, and from membership you can graduate into a fellow. There's a 3-stage training you go through, and you can go through it. And then there's also an accelerated mode that, you know, had been adopted, but it all depends on what you want. But basic thing is that you must be a graduate, you must be able to understand what is being said in English, because all the training would not be in our native dialect, but in English. But it's also important for me to also say that it's a training that I know that psychologists have participated in. You have medical doctors who are mediators, apart from lawyers, judges. You also have engineers, you know, because all these things cuts across. They cut across our day-to-day life. We even have religious leaders coming in, pastors. I know when we had the online dispute resolution classes for the first part set of neutrals, we had clergymen who are there, and I recall we had some whichever religious denomination you are coming in to be part and parcel of the system. Another question is, please, what is evaluative mediation? By evaluative mediation, we mean that the mediator weigh on the substance, you look at the substance, you give your own opinion as the case may be, as well as advice on what the settlement options are. You know, parties have their issues, but if you are using depending on what the issues are, as I've said, you can't straitjacket what, there's no hypothetical issues that you can drop now, but whichever, you have to look at it and then, you know, help them, assist them as being a reality tester to come to terms with what the issues are and evaluate as it is, the case may be. Another question is, can we use mediation as an effective tool to settle election dispute, taking us from the outcome of just concluded election in Nigeria and the agitation of many? Yes, we can. Like I said, you know, you remember that my first charge was that mediation does not declare party A as a winner or party B as a loser. What mediation does is to ensure that the parties among themselves are able to agree. I've also said that within the mediation within the political space cuts across intra-party disputes, inter-party disputes, as well as post-election disputes. If we look at the Kenyan experience, Kibaki and Odinga example in 2008, you will discover that there was a dispute. It was even a post-election dispute. There was a dispute, oh, somebody who did not get the majority vote had been declared, and it had already led to demonstrations. The enforcement agencies were already shooting, killing, maiming certain people, and lives were being lost. Each political leader, Kibaki and Odinga, had followers, you know, and the followers were taking the heat out on themselves, and lives were being lost till the AU set in motion His Excellency Kofi Annan's team that had to come in and you know, sit down with the parties, and one party eventually agreed to abide by it, and the other party stepped down. So it can be used, but as a mediator, you have to allow them to come to a consciousness of the need that they are carrying the weight of the nation. And then most importantly, we need not to forget that politics can only thrive where, or leadership can only thrive where there are people, followers to lead. If no followers exist, then we are not leading anybody. As it's usually said within the military, a general without troop is not a general. So for any leader, political leader, if you allow the system to run amok and there's nobody to lead them, unfortunately, you won't even have anybody to superintend over. Thank you, Joshua. I think I've exhausted all the questions. I don't know whether there are more.
Yes, in fact, we're already running out of time. Thank you very much for those wonderful answers to the questions. We would have loved to take comments from some of our participants, but we're already out of time. So quickly, I would just like to give this following announcement. For our members who are still associate members or full member cadre, the Institute have opportunity for you to upgrade via the Continuing Professional Development Program, that is the CPD. There are several of them. And for the month of April, we'll be having family mediation for those who has interest in mediating family disputes. And also in the month of April, we'll be having the psychology of mediation training. As a mediator, we want to know more about the psychology of both parts, the disputed participants. So these are the few courses that we'll be having for the month of April. And also for those of us that are not aware, the Institute has recently launched a platform called the Online Dispute Resolution Platform, where parties can come and file their cases before it becomes a bigger problem. You can file you can file a family dispute case, education case, financial case, real estate case, all sort of case that you just think you need to file before it becomes a big problem. So thank you very much once again, Mr. Obatunde Oyefesho. I must say we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot. So our next Let's Mediate will be scheduled for the month of April. The very last Monday in the month of April, just like today, will be our webinar. Once more, I want to appreciate everyone for taking their time to be part of this webinar. Thank you so much. And much more our facilitator. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joshua. And let me also thank everyone who have logged in. I know that out of your busy schedule, you logged into this webinar. For those who are not members of the Institute, I hope I've been able to encourage you to subscribe to Mediation. For those who are members, I hope that you participate more and help us in spreading this message of peace and mediation within our circles, within our localities and all that. And once again, I want to thank everyone. There are so many people I saw online. I want to thank everyone, classmates, friends, family, so many people I saw online. I want to thank you for taking out time to log on. I noticed, in fact, on some of my class platforms, I noticed that colleagues that put this particular session online. I want to thank everyone who out of their busy schedules. Thank you so much. And I want to encourage us, let the peace train continue to move. Thank you so much. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you, sir. So I think we have a question from, if we have the recorded version. The webinar is being recorded and it's also live on our YouTube channel for everyone to watch later. So you can go to your YouTube application, then search for ICMC Nigeria for us to, or for everyone to watch later. So thank you very much. That will be the end of today's webinar. If you have any other question, you can send it to support@icmc.ng, and from there we can assist you. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. I remain Joshua Adepetu. Wish you the best of today.